never been to this event. I know you all have money now. I saw the auction, so I'll expect you over at that table. I want to thank you for inviting me down. I was just up in Seattle for 4 days at Seafair up there. They have an SR-71, and I'll tell you, people really love this airplane. Now, I don't want you to confuse me today with anyone that's famous or important. What you're looking at is the luckiest guy you'll ever see as a guest speaker. And at the end of my presentation today, I believe you will agree with that. You know, leaving your jet parked in the jungle is no great feat. They expect you to return the plane when you check one out to go fly each day. A good landing, you know, is one you can walk away from, but a really great landing is when you can use the airplane again. So I didn't do either of those things, and I just want you to know that I'm just happy to be here. Now, I know what a lot of you are thinking. I've heard some talk earlier today. How could a fighter pilot possibly be a guest keynote speaker? They can't put two sentences together coherently. I understand. Let me just tell you, I've been doing this for over 30 years, and I've worked extremely hard on my vocabulary. And I'll be using some words in today's presentation that are very, very big. I am the luckiest guy in the world, and I did not feel like the luckiest guy in the world the day my aircraft was going down. I was pretty sure I was going to die that day, and it was a very sobering thought to know that your career was over as a young lieutenant. You were going to impact the jungle and be gone. And at the end, I was very calm, clenched my fist, closed my eyes tight, and I figured, hey, it'll all be over in a flash. It'll just be a big fireball, and I'll wake up in heaven painlessly. The next thing I know was there was a great deal of fire and smoke and heat and flames all around me. And I thought, well, maybe I didn't go the way I thought I was going to go. Quickly realizing I was still alive, I got myself out of the plane. And if you want heroes in my story, it's the Special Forces guys that came to rescue me. Got me back to Thailand, and then they medevaced me to Okinawa because they said he's not going to make the trip across the Pacific. He's going to die. Let him die in Okinawa. At Kadena, we'll ship his body home in a box. Next thing I know, a 9-man burn team from Fort Sam Houston was medevaced to Okinawa just for me. Me and those 9 people got real well acquainted in the next 2 months. Mostly I just cursed at them daily, and they did their best to save my life. I saw my body weight go from 180 pounds of raw muscle and steel, as you see today, to 119 pounds, 119. They said, if you lose another half a pound, we can't save you. My body rejected food, it just wouldn't eat. But the worst part of the story is I gave up and quit. And I'm an inspirational speaker today, and this is the worst part of my story. I have to admit to everybody, I actually quit and gave up. I wanted to die. Sometimes you have to reach rock bottom before you make the long journey back. And I hate to admit it, but I was just a whining little baby. And I said, please God, just let me die. I can't do this anymore. Well, there's a turning point to every story, and mine was kind of a silly thing at first, but I've learned since that it's a very important concept in life. I'll share with you today. One day I heard out the 3rd floor window, I could see the kids playing soccer. There was a soccer field out there. They're laughing and kicking the ball, and you could hear them playing. And I thought, man, I was those kids. I got to get back to that. I can't stand this giving up attitude. And I just, the whole way I've been raised as a kid, my dad was in the Marines for 32 years, and we just weren't quitters. And I just, at that moment, changed my attitude. Now, I thought I would probably still die, and I probably would never do anything. They told me they were going to amputate 2 of these fingers. I probably wouldn't walk right again. But I changed my attitude, and isn't it amazing how the slightest change in attitude can affect the whole rest of your life? And I did. I changed my attitude that day, and it wasn't that I got brave, or I got religion, or I got smart, or I just decided I was going to try. The next day they brought the food in, and I couldn't eat. My body rejected the food, and I said, God, just forget everything I said. Really, I want to eat now. And it wouldn't go down. And Army Corpsman there had a sack lunch his wife had packed. He said, maybe there's something in here. It was just a little thing of cherry Kool-Aid. And the cherry Kool-Aid went down real smooth. They ran to the commissary and they got every pack of cherry Kool-Aid they could find. I drank 3.2 gallons of cherry Kool-Aid that first day. I lived on 3 to 5 gallons of Kool-Aid a day for 5 days. I peed real good. And they said that's even a better sign. There's no internal injuries. He has 0 internal injuries, no inhalation burns, nothing. He can survive. He's 25 years old. He was in the peak of physical fitness when it happened. There's no reason he can't live. Next thing I know, I'm on a 141 back to Fort Sam Houston, Texas, there in San Antonio. Spent a year in the burn ward, and I'm not going to bore you with that tale of adventure. But keep in mind, miracles happen in life. I don't believe in miracles, I count on them. And I will tell you one day, there's several in my story, but I'll just tell you this one. I'm laying there in the hospital bed, working my clay ball. Looked like they weren't going to amputate after all. I got a crooked finger. They put a titanium hinge joint in there. And they said, well, you're lucky you're alive. You're going to walk funny the rest of your life. You may not get the full use of your arms, but your fingers are going to be numb. And you're all messed up, but don't worry. You're going to someday leave this hospital. So I had to pretend that I was going to fly again just to get through the therapy every day. And let me tell you, the therapy of burned skin is worse than the actual injury. So to get through that every day, because I didn't want to just be one of these people that was hindered the rest of their life with no motion, I had an airplane picture on the wall and I pretended that I was going to fly jet ski. See, people think, oh, he was just so brave and courageous and he knew it. No, I was pretty sure I wouldn't. But I didn't lose that positive attitude. And one day I'm laying there and I see a man in a full blue Air Force uniform, a full colonel, standing at my bed. And I know he's not one of the doctors because they're all Army doctors at Fort Sam. And I go, who are you? What do you want? He says, are you Brian Shul? I go, yeah. He said, well, you have pissed off the entire Air Force. You were supposed to sign those discharge papers. They've sent them over here 6 times and you keep throwing them in the trash and they don't know what to do with you. They don't think you'll ever come back and fly. They just want you out because they don't know what to do with you. And I said, well, you caught me. Yeah, I'm not signing those papers because the minute I do, I have nothing to look forward to. And he said, well, you think you could ever pass a flight physical? And I said, well, probably no, but sure like to try. I got nothing else to do here all day but play my clay ball. I'd like to try. And he said, when you're ready for your physical, you come see me. I go, who are you? Here's miracle number 1. He said, I'm the chief flight surgeon of the entire United States Air Force. I reside at Randolph Air Force Base 15 minutes away. I'm the top doc. I'm the guy that if I sign you off, nobody will question. When you think you can pass, you let me know, and I'll be hard on you. I won't get, if you can't do it, you can't do it, but I think you deserve a chance. So as he was leaving, I said, why would you do this for me? You don't even know me. He said, son, I like your attitude. And I thought, there's something to be said for a positive attitude in life. And I said, well, I like your attitude, and I am working my clay ball. A few months later, I'm in an ambulance. I'm going over to Fort Sam, Houston, Texas. I took a 2-day physical. My medical records are this high. I had so much wrong with me, and I have no waivers, 0 waivers. And you know why this bent finger is okay? Because they built a hinge joint, and I could grasp. And if you could grasp, that means you could grip the throttles, and they can't flunk you. He said, you're 1A, no waivers. I tried to flunk you, and I said, but you have 0 internal injuries. That's a miracle. Next thing I know, the Air Force says, you got 48 hours to report for duty, get your helmet in. Either you can do it or you can't. And there came this amazing day when I stood on the top steps at Fort Sam, Houston, on those big concrete steps, and there was a blue staff car waiting to take me back to the Air Force. And I was terrified. I was still underweight. I was about 150 pounds. I still had some steel pins in my fingers. I didn't even know if I could do it or not. I hadn't flown in a year and a half. And as I stood there on those steps, I knew two things to be totally certain, and I'm going to share with you today. Number one, life is short and it's uncertain. And because it's both, how can you possibly miss the opportunity of each day? Number two, live your passion, live your dream. Do it now. Do not wait because of rule number one. Armed with this very simple knowledge, I stumbled down the stairs and couldn't open the door to the car. And the guy had to open it for me. He looked at me like, you're going to go be a pilot. Yeah, right. Went back to the Air Force. And I mean, someday I'm going to write a book about all the trials and tribulations of Lieutenant Shul coming back, but I did it. And I felt like I'd been reborn. I felt like I had been given a second chance and I was starting over. So I was in my second life. So I was like a 2-year-old coming back to the Air Force. Now, it makes colonels very nervous having 2-year-olds fly their jets. I'll tell you that right now. But I got back into the fighter jets. I was barely able to get through it. Next thing you know, I'm flying A7s. I'm in the first A10 squadron. I'm the air show demo guy in the A10. And one day I say, I'd like to fly the world's fastest jet, the SR-71. And everyone said, oh, no, you can't do that. Hey, you're lucky you're doing what you're doing because you got to wear a spacesuit, take an astronaut physical to fly the world's fastest, highest flying jet. And they said, if you get flunked any part of the astronaut physical, you will never fly again. Now, I was 12 when I came to the SR-71. I was a 12-year-old. And I'm thinking to myself, yeah, that might be true, but what if I can pass the physical and I miss the whole opportunity of a lifetime because you were afraid I might fail? See, that's how 12-year-olds think. You can do anything. Put me on my bike. I'm an F-86. I'll tell you right now. So I went and took the astronaut physical. I applied to fly the jet, passed it with flying colors. The doctor said, God, you look like hell on the outside. I said, yeah, and I get that a lot. He said, but internally, it's amazing. We couldn't push you enough on the treadmill. I said, yeah, I've been working out. This is kind of like I have a second life now, and I'm 12, and I'm pretty excited. So I would like to share with you today the adventures of a 12-year-old flying the world's fastest jet. For those of you that don't know what this plane is, please excuse yourself immediately and don't ever come back. No, this is the world's fastest, highest flying jet. It was your guardian of freedom for a quarter of a century, from the Vietnam War to the Gulf War. This airplane did more to preserve the integrity, safety of this nation than you could possibly imagine. I was lucky enough to be flying it under President Reagan, who really knew how to use this airplane. Crew of 2, a pilot and a navigator, 107 feet long, carrying 80,000 pounds of gas, about 12,000 gallons, which we'd go through in about an hour and a half. The jet was not only the most elegant aircraft ever built, but also just the most amazing in all they did. First of all, I related to the airplane because it should have never been built. You can't build an airplane out of titanium, they told Kelly Johnson. You can't forge the titanium. It doesn't work. It's brittle. It's not gonna work. They made it work. They invented technology to make this jet what it was. We are flying at 2,000 miles an hour. At Mach 3 plus, at 85,000 feet, I could read your name tag on your shirt if you were standing outside. We are doing a mile every 2 seconds. The jet heated up to about 900 degrees Fahrenheit from the friction, but this was the jet that gave way to no other plane. This was my office. Nothing magic here. Guess what kind of radar we had? Oh, we didn't have any radar. Guess what kind of computers were? There were no computers. Guess what kind of fly-by-wires? There was manual cables. This was a 1958 technology put into the greatest aircraft ever built. This was my office for 4 years. Now, since there were 2 men in the airplane, the guy in the back cannot fly the jet. He's working on the cameras and sensors, all the secret stuff. My job is to keep the pointy end forward. And that was a full-time job in this jet. So we have totally different cockpits, which means in an emergency, you have to learn to work together really well, which means 6 months in the simulator before they let you touch the plane. 1 year of training to be checked out in this jet. Now, I will admit, getting used to the space helmet took a little. People were so worried about my scar tissue, or they thought I was some frail thing. And they said, you know, maybe you shouldn't do this. You'll be breathing 100% oxygen the whole time you're in the helmet. And I looked at them as a 12-year-old, and I go, okay, let me get this straight. Went into surgery 15 times. They were giving me 100% oxygen all the time when I was in there. So I think I'm going to be okay. It wasn't a problem. Now, I will say one of the little problems I had one day was they told you, watch what you eat before you go up. Don't eat any gassy things. As you go higher in elevation, what happens? The evolved gases in your body expand. Well, I was a new guy. I was just so excited to fly my first 6-hour mission. We took it from Beale to Cuba, loop the island, come back. It's 5:15. And they said, well, that's your longer mission. You better have the ham and cheese omelet at the in-flight kitchen. In fact, put extra cheese on there for that protein. It'll be really good. And I thought, well, that makes sense. Cheese, protein, pile it on. What could possibly go wrong? Passing 72,000 feet in the climb that day, I thought I was going to get live birth in the cockpit. My man Walter in the back said, are you okay up there? Finally, when relief came at about 80,000, I very tearfully realized just how self-contained that entire system was. It's Walt and I getting ready to go do one of our first long missions together. And let's face it, way more fun being in the front seat. Way more fun having a view and your hand on the stick. And I'll tell you a little secret. I never could make these fingers do what I wanted them to do on all the switches on the throttles. Guess who learned how to do everything backwards? You can learn to do things when you're motivated. When you want it bad enough, you will learn how to do things. I didn't tell the Air Force this, and I expect none of you to mention this outside this room. But you learn how to do it. Just getting this hand in a space glove was an ordeal, but they were so good every day. The guys that suited you up, they learned how to do it. They pushed and tugged, and I said, hey, you got a titanium pin in there. You can't hurt it. Just shove it in. Well, it's more fun being in the front seat, let's face it. So if you look closely at my spacesuit, you'll see a little happy face. Walter, not so much. I always told Walt, if we're ever shot down, you're the spy, I'm just the driver. Now, we only flew out of 3 locations, and we covered the globe. 2 jets in Okinawa, 2 jets in England, and 12 airplanes at Beale Air Force Base, California. That was it. I was out of the country about 5-6 months a year. We covered the globe geopolitically. Everything from Vietnam to the Gulf War. Do not think satellites did everything. This jet could be in a particular angle, at a particular time, at a particular elevation. It could do things satellites can't do. I could look underwater and track Soviet submarines. I could look through weather and map. I could find the smallest detail with the sensors that they put on this aircraft. This is Okinawa. We're getting ready to go up to North Korea, sonic boom their little shorts off. This jet carried a double sonic boom from the spikes in the inlet and from the nose of the airplane. Now, Ronald Reagan was great. He loved using this airplane. One day, the commies were having a conference, kind of like you're having here today. And they had it in North Korea, and they invited all the bad guys, but they didn't invite us. They had the Russians and the Vietnamese and the Chinese and the Koreans. They were all there. Ronald Reagan said, have Brian and Walter take off out of Kadena, zip on up to Korea, and do some little figure-8 butterfly patterns. We're going, what are we doing? We photographed the entire country in the first 4 minutes. It was Ronald Reagan's way of every 4 minutes sonic booming their little coffee cup off their desk, just to let them know that we know you're there, and now you know we're here, and you can't do a thing about it. Over 4,000 missiles were fired at this jet in 25 years. Over 4,000, not one not one piece of one jet was ever hit. Little footnote to history you may not be aware of. Behind the jet in this picture is the Cadena Marina, where the Navy has a little officers club. People are windsurfing and sailing and learning how to windsurf. Rumor has it, and I don't know how true this is, that some pilots on takeoff would go ripping across that marina at 10 feet off the deck in full burner, knocking windsurfers over. I think that's just a rumor, personally. This is a cool picture you will never ever see again. A jet on a runway, active runway, doing an engine run, getting ready to fly a 6.5-hour mission out of Mildenhall, England, going up to the polar ice cap, looking at Soviet missiles. That's got to be time-lapse photography there. You'll never get that image. Folks, that picture was taken by a 12-year-old that had no clue what the word aperture in his camera meant. Let's review. Life is short, life is uncertain. Live your passion, pursue your dream now, don't wait. My passion was photography along with flying jets. So you're mating me now with the most elegant airplane ever built, and you're saying I can't have a camera ever out there, I can't ever take any pictures. So of course, being 12, I went to the commander and said, sir, can you write a letter of approval that I could carry the camera out there and do this? Occasionally they would. Most of the time they frowned on it. The photographs that you're seeing in my show, and one of the reasons my books are so unique, all of the pictures are mine. Not to say, look at me, what a great photography. No. Look at me not missing the moment. Look at me living life even if you don't know how to do it really good. Even if that 100% oxygen didn't taste so good, you just do it. I was sitting in the mobile car with the colonel watching this, and he looks over and said, what's that camera doing on the seat? You know you're not supposed to have a camera out here. As any good 12-year-old, I went, huh? What? Camera? And then the sound of the jet just took our attention right back. And I knew I had to think fast. I said, you know, Colonel, if you had a picture of that in your office, you'd be the only guy in the Air Force who would have something that magnificent. And I never saw his lips move, but I swear he said, you have 10 seconds. I can still feel that cold concrete runway on a fall day, kneeling down, thinking, God, what is the hell is that aperture? Maybe big numbers are better, I'll try that. I had an F3, I got 2 shots, my little roll of 36, cranking, manual focus, get the wingtips in, geez, oh God, get back in the car. 2 shots. That's a fabulous picture. And again, the point isn't, look at me, I really knew what I was doing. No, the point is, so many people in life are afraid to try things because they don't think they're very good at it. It's really what I'd like to do, but they'll laugh at me. Well, I really wanted to do this, but I don't know if I can. Life is short, life is uncertain. If you don't do it, we can never be on that runway again with that jet. We can never get that picture again. And I'm glad to this day I have it. Every picture you'll ever see of an SR-71, there'll be a puddle underneath it. That's because the jet did indeed leak, because it grew 4 inches in flight when it heated up. So with subsonic and cool, the jet seeps. Also, you see the crew chief checking the pitot heat here. When most of you go fly, you check the pitot heat to make sure it comes on. We're checking to make sure we can turn the pitot heat off, or we'll melt that tube down when we pass about 80,000 feet. As that jet is screaming through the air at high friction. So it was quite a different environment to fly in than most airplanes. If you never heard one take off, your life's incomplete, I'm sorry. It was a sound that rattled your entire skeletal frame, believe me. Climbing out over Susanville, Mount Lassen in the background. I don't want to make any Cessna drivers here feel bad, but from brake release to 26,000 feet leveling at 450 was 1 minute 53 seconds. I think that's a couple days in a Cessna, I'm not sure. Now if you're going to go this fast, you know, if you went hunting and fired your 30-06, that bullet is out of that muzzle 3,100 feet per second. We're climbing at 3,200 feet per second. But you're going to have to get refueled 2 to 5 times in a mission. Now, on a nice sunny day, we're all pretty professional, we're pretty good pilots. not too bad. You try this at night in a turn, in turbulence, with lightning in your face. As you get heavier, the jet wants to fall off the boom. I'm taking on 65,000 pounds of gas. I'm changing my gross weight by 65,000 pounds. So I start sliding off the boom. I have to tap one burner and fly sideways for that last 15,000 pounds. You try this at night in a turn, it is not fun. But you have to get the gas. And oh, by the way, in your fighter jet, you can be on the boom 5 minutes, 6 minutes, top off. 15 minutes. 15 minutes of root canal surgery, and you better get it right. There can be no mistakes. You don't want to kill everybody in the tanker. It's a big airplane, carried a lot of gas. Well, let me just go back to that. You may wonder, well, how'd you get that picture? I was in a T-38. One day they said the Air Force official photographer was coming out to do some pictures of the SR, which was the least photographed jet in the Air Force. And I said, I will fly the photographer guy. And since I was a senior instructor at that point in the 38, they said, well, okay, what could possibly go wrong? Well, we're doing barrel rolls over the refueling. And again, I expect you not to tell anyone outside this room, but that's how you get a beautiful picture of the refueling. On my days off on Saturday, I'd go up with the tanker guys, and my friends would go, what is wrong with you? And take your day off. And I go, we are the only guys in the world to get to be around this jet. It's like, we're so spoiled, we do it every day. This will not last forever. This will be over someday. And I'd go up, and the tanker guys were happy to have you. And of course, the boom operator, if you've ever been on the back of the tanker, it's always, you got 10 seconds. You got to lean over, can't get your eye to the viewfinder. Maybe smaller numbers are better on the Aptra, I don't know, we'll give it a try. And now, people are very glad I have these pictures today to keep the memory and the history of the jet alive. This is another one of those Rembrandt lighting pictures where you go, ooh, time-life photography. That's a professional photographer there. That is an incredible picture. And I didn't have a clue. I'm sitting in the ready room at Kadena, and the commander goes, Brian, it's your day off. Why don't you go up on the tanker, see if you can get some shots. This was the same colonel who now had a beautiful picture in his office. I said, sir, I think it will. And once again, the boom operator, you got 10 seconds, so it's a real mission, we got to refuel. The jet just banked 12 degrees. I leaned over. This is one of the rare shots that shows the fuel seeping out of the wing in an aerodynamic flow. It's just like a satin finish to it because of the reflected light coming off the clouds and the ambient light hitting it from above. I know all this now. Back then, all I knew was, damn it, I only got 2 shots. I had no clue. I hope those Kodachrome slides come out. And my point is, don't ever miss the moment. No matter what age you are, whatever you're doing, life goes by, and you don't get to always go back and have that do-over. Passing 50,000 feet, the sky gets a very deep, dark blue, and next thing you know, you're leveling at about 83,000. Look out the window, it takes your breath away. I carried a very small little Nikon in my spacesuit pocket. Now, we didn't have much time to be doing pictures. I only have 6 from the cockpit. This is the Arctic Circle from about 89,000 feet. I saw 2 sunsets and 2 sunrises on this day as we went further north in the winter, and we saw the sunset, and then we head back to England, we saw it come up again. Really incredible sights that were just, I loved explaining in my book. We didn't have the term selfie back then. This is a self-portrait, and I put the camera up on 10-second timer, and in the book you can see, it looks better, you can see all the gauges and all. And we're just so proud to be doing the mission that we were doing, really holding the commies' feet to the fire, so to speak. People always ask me, well, what are your favorite missions? I could talk for an hour on that. Our claim to fame, Walter and I are the guys who did the Libya raid in '86 when Reagan bombed Gaddafi. We're the guys that did the post-strike, pre-strike. So we're the only crew in history to fly 3 missions in 3 days in this airplane. So we're very proud of that. But for me personally, this is the coast of Southeast Asia. One day, we actually got to fly over the very spot where Shul had been shot down, 14 years earlier. Don't think we didn't lay down some serious sonic boom that day. And let's face it, it's pretty cool to have a patch on your sleeve that says M3+. Nobody in the Air Force can have that. We're somebody. But the fact is, fighter pilots give you a lot of heat because you don't have a gun, you don't drop bombs, you don't pull G's, you don't do all that cool stuff. That's true, you don't. But we're doing a higher level mission. I taught at the Air Force's Top Gun for a while, and I graduated all these students into F-16s and F-15s, and one day, my instructor and I was checking out the airplane, landed, we came into the officers club on a Friday night, flashing our M3 patch, and my students go, "Brian, Major Shul, you're flying the Black now, that's so cool, wow." And then, of course, they start in, "So what'd you do today, Major Shul? Fly some more straight and level?" Which was pretty much what we did. So I didn't know what to say. And my instructor was very cool and calm, laid his beer down, and he said something to them, was so innocuous that they had never heard in their entire life. He said, "Yeah, we did Nebraska in 3.5 minutes today." And it just shut them all up because they just didn't know how to respond to that. And that's the best way to do Nebraska, by the way. Sometimes we'd see incredible sights. This is sunrise at 88,000. Took a jet from Beale to England, which is a 4.5-hour flight, and hit the sun right over Iceland. And then, of course, we had to refuel looking right into the sun. Sometimes at 5 hours later, the weather has changed completely at the base. You've been up there in this clear air mass. Now you come back and you have enough gas for one approach. You're 190 knots across the fence. Don't mess it up. Oh yeah, it's foggy and there's ice on the runway in England and you can't see poop, but be the best landing you ever made in your life after 6 hours of wearing yourself out refueling. And that's what it was like. The rule was you would not hurt the airplane, ever. You could die, they'll train another crew, but that airplane better be coming back in one piece. Now, if you want, and we had a wonderful B-52 drag chute that we used on this jet to help slow you down. It was really very, very efficient. If you want to have more than your 15 minutes of fame, you be an SR-71 pilot. Come to a major air show where there's 100,000 people. Fly in the air show, light your burners in their face, land at the air show, stand in front of your jet. You are a sky god. And I never knew what it was like to be a rock star. I didn't want to be that in life, but oh baby, I was for 15 minutes in front of this jet. And it wasn't that people were yelling or screaming or swooning. They couldn't speak. They would approach as if you were the Pope, and they dare not utter a word, almost ready to kneel. And we're going like, "Hey, we're just regular Air Force pilots. We're flying a really cool jet. How do you do? My name," and they're like, "He wanted to touch me." And here's the question we always got. You can appreciate this. When you go into orbit, do you shut the engines down? We don't go into orbit. It's an air-breathing jet. That's why it's so amazing it's not a rocket. But after you heard that question 20 times, you had to play with them a little bit. One day, the guy asked me that question, and I go, "Well, if you promise not to divulge any of this to anyone, I will share some top secret information." Walter goes, "Here we go." And that's what the fans wanted. They wanted some top secret info to be a part of the team. This was the one jet that was undefeated. They couldn't shoot it down. Everybody wanted to be on this team. So I said, "Sir, when we're on the back side of the moon, we shut one engine down, use the moon's gravitational force back to high orbit in Earth, and then crank it up." And his mouth was open and his eyes were, Walter just walked away. The man ran back to his family, told them everything as fast as he could, everything, you know. And that's what it's like. But I will tell you something more serious. Looking at this picture, I said how important attitude is. Well, I'll tell you something else that's important, and that's perspective. You can't lose your perspective in life. One day I'm at this very air show standing under the wing of the jet, and who do you think is standing next to me? Ben Rich of Lockheed. He flew over there just to see how the jet is doing, check in on everybody. And the man who invented the engineering that made the inlets work that no other jet could do. He's standing next, I'm taller than Ben Rich. He's a giant in the industry, and he's talking to me like we're buddies. And when we were done, he said something to me I'll never forget. He said, Brian, I really envy you. And I go, you envy me? He said, yeah, you get to sit up there every day and feel what Mach 3 feels like with those J-58 Pratt & Whitneys. You get to be the tip of the spear. You're sitting up there in the greatest airplane ever built, flying at those speeds. You get to feel it. He said, I built it and I never got to fly it. And I thought, suit this man up immediately. Give him my sortie tomorrow. Do you think I ever flew the jet again with the same perspective without thinking about Ben Rich? Never got to sit where I'm sitting. Who am I? So it's very easy to lose perspective in life, and sometimes we do, but I will tell you that was such an unbelievable thing that he said to me. And I highly recommend, besides my books, Ben Rich's Skunk Works book, if you haven't read it, of how they built this airplane. Oops, sorry. If you flew the Blackbird, you also flew the baby jet, the T-38. Yeah, you got the book. Very good, sir. Well, glad to see you. I like your t-shirt. We have a VIP amongst us. Just don't pay attention to it. The T-38 was our way we kept it current in formation and instruments because it helped you with refueling and everything. Walter and I also did a lot of crew coordination exercises. It was kind of fun. Sometimes I'd let Walter fly. Here he is demonstrating straight and level flight over Mount Lassen. But it was a great sports car, but it also afforded me the opportunity to get a lot of the photographs that you're seeing here today. One of the rare shots of the two jets together, the T-38 was a safety chase. That's why we really had it. Here the SR-71 is dumping fuel to lighten his gross weight as an emergency right after takeoff. The T-38 is going to offer assist. We just happened to be airborne that day, and somebody just happened to have their camera. It's a rare shot of the two jets together over Beale Air Force Base. You never know when the opportunity is going to come, and you just can't miss it. This is the one picture I'm going to tell you was really good today. Somebody figured out what the word aperture meant. I'm in focus. My buddy's jet is in focus. Mammoth Lakes is in focus. This is a cool picture. 20 years in the Air Force, I finally learned a few camera tricks. I had a little screw-on cable release in my hand, so I didn't have to have my hand up. I had my buddy fly dangerously close and high. I figured, if he dies, it was a good cause to get in the picture. And I figured out some things I've been reading about photography for years and teaching myself. This was a going away gift for myself my last week in the Air Force in 1990, which was the same year they retired the SR-71 from the Air Force. It was a sad day, a budget decision Strategic Air Command had to make. We just couldn't afford all that tanker support anymore. There were too many other things going on. They started flying the jets off the base one at a time to museums. There's 30 museums that have them today. There came a very sad day, though, when the very last jet left Beale. I'd have taken more pictures of it, but tears welled up in your eyes as you realized you were saying goodbye to a legend, the likes of which you would never see again. I listened to the roar of that jet all the way out of sight in the clouds, and you could still hear it rumbling. It just didn't want to leave. It crossed the threshold from Air Force duty to legend. If you haven't seen one sitting in a museum, you should. It's a piece of American aviation history that's unsurpassed, not only in how it was built, but in what it what it did. I got out of the Air Force and I had all these photographs, and I didn't know if they were any good or not. I took them to professional photographers, and they said, Brian, you got to realize what you have here. This is a treasure. You need to do a book. And thus, in the early 90s, started the saga of Brian's SR-71 books that are now all over the internet for millions of dollars. I'm just blown away by it all. I did bring our newest book with me today. I already sold out of the sled driver books, but I have the new one that's written after the jet was declassified. So now we can tell you more about what we are actually doing on our real missions. Also, my little company, we're the only ones to do a 50th anniversary gold coin. Many of you purchased one today. Those are real keepsakes because nobody else did anything for the 50th anniversary of the jet. Now, you might notice the indigo blue under the 2 stars. The 2 stars represent the 2 crew members. Why indigo blue? Well, here's a bit of trivia for you. The jet was painted indigo blue. It's radar reflective and heat emitting. It's actually federal serial number indigo blue. It is technically not a black bird. I will also tell you, if you buy one of my books today, I have a few left. There are still certain pictures in there I expect you to keep secret and not divulge to anyone outside of this hangar. No matter what else I do in life, because of the internet and the fascination for this plane, I'm always going to be the sled driver guy. I'm going to be the SR guy. I actually went out and did some other things. I flew with the Thunderbirds for an entire winter training season. I'm very proud of that. I'm the only guy they ever let do that, and I did a book on them. If you're going to fly with the Thunderbirds, don't do it in winter training. They're not real good yet, and it's a little scary. Which led to my infamous phone call to the Blue Angels saying, hey, I want to fly with you guys the entire air show season. Imagine saying that. Imagine saying, I want to fly in the back seat the whole year with you, sit in on the briefings, and then do a book at the end of the year. You'd be out of your mind. They'd say no 400 times, which is exactly what they did. So, what have we learned today? Shul doesn't let a little thing like 400 no's get in the way. I drove down to El Centro, showed up in person. They go, who are you? What are you doing? The PA guy said, you're the guy on the phone. I really respect that you came all the way down and you showed up. I'll give you 10 minutes. He said, everybody else wants to do a book. Movie stars, they want free rides of sports heroes, congressmen. Nobody gives anything back. You're going to do a book for us. Okay. I had the greatest year as a photojournalist you could ever want to have, flying with the Blue Angels in number 7 jet. There's 3 jets in this picture. How often do you think they're lined up that well? Hardly ever. And how often do you think our jet is lined up with those jets? It was an incredibly, you might say we look a little close here, you'd be right. We're counting rivets. His belly of his jet almost crushed our canopy. We almost were all dead. It happens. So we landed that day. I said, hey, Dino, I used to teach this stuff for a living, and I was really good, but you scared me bad twice today. He goes, that's okay, partner. I scared myself 3 times. I did a little flying with the Air National Guard. I really thought I was going to be Mr. Aviation Air journalist, but the internet became so big at the time, nobody was buying aviation imagery or anything. They could find everything on the internet you ever wanted. So it really became almost a moot point unless you had something unique like a Thunderbird book, a Blue Angel book, and the only books on the SR-71 with your own photography, written in plain language, not a technical book. So I call this Eagles in the Hood. It's Mount Hood in Oregon with the National Guard. So I went back to my nature photography that I was always have been doing my entire Air Force career. And in the process, I learned who the real flyers are. See, man does not fly. Man builds machines that fly and sits in them. Birds are the real flyers, and the real fighter pilots of the field are those Raptors out there. That every feather is a flight control surface. And you can't tell me that's not the look of a fighter pilot when that eagle has got that fish in his sights. He's rolling in with leading edge flaps, slight tail feather, rudder turn, little stabilizing feathers on the tips. I get more fun now to photographing the birds than I ever did photographing airplanes. They really are amazing creatures. And they can do things we can never do. Now, everybody always tells me that had to be the most amazing part of your life. That has to be number one in life satisfaction moments. And I will tell you that it was very satisfying fighting communism, bringing the Berlin Wall down, holding their feet to the fire, giving our president the pictures to win every SALT talk he ever went to. But it's number two. It's number two in my life. Number one was when I stood on the top of those concrete steps at Fort Sam Houston at 150 pounds, terrified. They were kicking me out of the hospital. And I had to negotiate those steps. And I didn't know if I could do it, but at that moment I was being given a second chance. How can it get any better than that? You get a do-over. You not only get a do-over, you get to go back to the exact thing you were doing with no waivers. It's up to you now. Don't be too scared. You might not be able to do it. You'll have egg on your face, but everybody else is giving you a second chance. Doesn't get any better than that. 18,000 men went to Vietnam, never saw the age of 21. Never lived their dream, never had their passion fulfilled. Never saw 21. And here I am at 25, getting to go back to the dream a second chance. That has to be number one. This is a close second. And I will tell you, it has been almost more fun since I've stopped flying the jet with all of the YouTubes and internet fame, that it is not a comfortable feeling having your fat face all over 50,000 YouTubes, believe me. But if I don't set the record straight and tell the LA Speed story correctly, then I know I'll be pitchforked in the parking lot because of that. So please, when you get home, don't write me the LA Speed story and say, hey, I heard this really cool story the other day, because it's mine. And I'll tell you, that whole LA Speed story started, guess why? Because a 12-year-old kid in the audience asked, was it ever fun to fly the jet? A 12-year-old kid at space camp, and I thought, that's the question I would have asked. I've been 12 twice. And it was a great question. I thought, you know, it made me think, and that's how I came up with the LA Speed story. Probably would have never been told. So, for those of you that don't know it, you need to. For those of you that do, I want you to get it right. Walt and I were on a training mission to gain hours and experience, where you just fly around the United States, you're ready to graduate, go fly real missions, you just need a few more hours. So we took off out of Beale Air Force Base, refueled over Idaho, ripped on up to Montana, zipped across Denver, right turn to Santa Fe, out over Los Angeles, up to Seattle, back into Sacramento, 2 hours, 20 minutes. Then we do it backwards just to get more refueling, more time. Well, as we made the turn to Santa Fe, there I can see Tucson. Pretty soon we're over Tucson. I can see downtown LA from Tucson. We're blowing cactus down 18 miles high. There's not a gauge moving in my cockpit. Everything is smooth as silk. It's like perfection. I built the model airplane as a kid. I'm looking in the mirror. Yeah, you're doing it, man. We bad. And it was so perfect a moment. I thought, poor Walter. He has to monitor 5 radios in the back seat. And so I just picked up the toggle to listen to what he's listening to. And LA Center is controlling all the bug smashers and mortal planes below us. And we're above controlled airspace, so they're not talking, but we're on their radar. And we hear a Cessna pre-GPS days ask for his ground speed. And we think, oh brother, who cares? Well, that's how they used to figure out where they were. But Center treats you like you're John Glenn. If those of you that fly know this is true. And here, sure enough, there's some Cessna guy, Center Cessna Alpha Tango Charlie, say hi ground speed. And Center could say, yeah, get off break, but no, he says, Center to November time. We show you 90 knots, 90 knots on the ground. Wow. And right after that, a twin bonanza pops up to pimp the guy for speed. Center is twin bonanza, ground speed. And Center, we'd like to say, geez, get off free, guys. It's Friday afternoon, why me? But he's going to talk to you like you're Air Force One. Twin Beach, we show you 230 knots on the ground. Whoa. Right after that, a Navy F-18 out of Lemoore popped up on frequency. And you knew it was a Navy guy because he talked very slick on the radio. Center Dusty 5-2 speed, check. And I'm thinking, wait a minute. Dusty 5-2 has a ground speed indicator in that $1 million F-18 cockpit. In fact, he's got the ground speed right here in the heads-up display right in front of his fat Navy face. Why are we broadcast? Oh, I get it. We are just the meanest, baddest, fastest fighter pilots in the valley today. And we want everyone from Fresno to the coast to know what real speed is. We're ripping across Death Valley at just breakneck speed, and we want everybody to know. And Center was very cool. You kind of changed his tone like, okay, we put an end to this. Thank you, Navy. Dusty 5-2, we show you 620 knots across the ground. There was a hush on frequency. There wasn't an airliner from Seattle to San Diego that wanted to be next on frequency. And a 12-year-old was reaching for the mic button. And I thought, oh no, wow. I flew single seat all my life. Now I'm in the family model, and Walter's in charge of the radio. Said, no, it's the Navy. They must die. They must die now. I thought, no, but if I do it, Walter will feel slighted, and I want us to be a good crew. And right at that moment, I heard a click of the mic button in the back seat. Ladies and gentlemen, Walter and I became a crew at that moment. His very best innocent voice. LA Center, Aspen 30. You got a ground speed readout for us? You can almost hear a collective gasp on frequency for the people who go, oh, the poor fools, they didn't hear the previous transmissions. It's an etiquette thing. Center took a few extra seconds because they got it monitored several scopes for us. Came back with Aspen 30. We show you 1,982 knots across the ground. And when I knew I was going to like Walter for the next 4 years, so when he came back and said, Center, we're showing a little closer to 2,000. And at that moment, life did not get better. The Navy had been flamed. The King of Speed lives, and a crew had been formed. So it is for the 12-year-old kid that asks, isn't it ever fun? Oh yeah, just for a minute or two, it was. So what do combat-hardened fighter pilots do when they retire? I shoot pansies now, and I'm very proud of that. I have a gallery of my nature photography, mostly the birds, and my aviation stuff. And we made a little emblem of from butterflies to blackbirds is kind of our motto at Gallery 1. And we're doing something a little different here today. We actually are going to let you ask questions against my better judgment. No, and I love doing it because what happens, like that 12-year-old kid, people ask stuff you don't think about ever, including in your talk. And I was just in Seattle for 4 days with the group there, and man, they came up with questions that were really good. I'd never thought of. So you're going to get about 15 or 20 minutes of asking questions. But before you do, I have a little treat for you for sitting here all afternoon. One is, let me just talk to this slide first. Attitude is everything. Perspective, don't lose it. And the choices you make in your life about should I do it or should I not? Should I take that physical or not? Should I fly that airplane or not? It's all about the attitude you have, the perspective you keep, and the choices you make. It's that simple. People want to make a hero out of me or something. Far from it. Far from it. I've just learned that, it all boils down to we make certain choices. And it doesn't mean it's all going to work. This could have not worked, but just if he had not just put that one hinge joint in there, it was that close to never flying an airplane again. So the next time that you find yourself up against an objective where you know you feel hopeless in a situation, but you have to get to the other side, you have to find a way to get there, and you don't see a way, remember this story. One day, an SR-71 took the runway at Kadena Air Base, swung that long black nose out of taxiway Alpha, settled onto the runway, sat there just oozing and gurgling and roaring, waiting for his exact takeoff time. And the pilot of the jet that day could look out his little window on a 153-degree heading for 2.1 miles. He could see the roof of the hospital that he had laid in 12 years earlier. Legend has it that on takeoff that day, the SR-71 did not climb out over the South China Sea to hit the tanker. Oh no. Rather made a hard 90 left turn at the end of the runway, full burner, 300 feet. Some say much lower. Buzzed a certain soccer field, sending kids screaming and falling down and running for their life. Rattled every window in a certain hospital without breaking one. And as that big black jet made an arc back to course, now that the entire base was awake, the pilot of that plane that day knew Einstein was correct when he said, imagination is far more important than knowledge. You have to imagine the thing before you can do the thing. And there is no limit. The sky is not a limit. I can tell you that. Just one look, I was a bad mess. First time I ever saw the jet, they took you out to the runway on your interview, and you get to watch that takeoff sequence like right in your face, and you'd never seen anything like that. And the guy says, oh, what do you think there, Major Shul? You want to do that? And of course you're trying to be very cool and, you know, like, yeah, I'm a professional. I said, would it be unprofessional to admit I just peed in my pants? And he laughed so hard. He said, yeah, we all did. And it was unlike any other plane. We called her the lady in the long black dress. She'll only dance with a few, but you better know the steps when you go out there. She would humble you, excite you, terrorize you simultaneously every time you flew her. But she was an honest airplane, got the mission done. You saw the little commies there firing some missiles at it during Vietnam. They fired 2 missiles at Walt and I over Libya, and that was pretty exciting. And that's all in my book. It was a very exciting day for us. So you guys have been really sitting in here a long time today, and I can't wait to hear what kind of questions may or may not come out of you at this point. Because I enjoy keeping the memory of the jet live all over the country. I do a variety. I have a variety of different videos and slides and stuff. Tried to show more airplane stuff for this group today, since you guys are all airplane geeks. Crazy people betting on keychains. I got one. I got mine. Okay, so before we go any further, there is a VIP here with us today, and I only feel it'd be like if the president was here or something, I'd introduce him. Would you stand up, please, sir? Turn around and show the model this wonderful T-shirt you have. This man. Now don't encourage him. Do not encourage him. This man may not look like much, and that's what most people say when they meet him. But I just want to tell you, when I started my Blue Angel year as the Air Force guy, I got to know 2 or 3 of the civilians that used to be honorary Blue Angels. They don't make very many people honorary Blue Angels. And Dave Griffith here was one of only 4 people who was an honorary Blue Angel. So every time I'd show up, if I'd see him, and we became friends this back in 1994, and we've been friends ever since, and just a tremendous individual. Had a real battle with cancer and all, and they rebuilt his jaw there and everything, and he's just doing great. And I don't know, he's older than dirt, but he's still standing. And Griff, it's just so great you can make it. I know you live pretty close down here. I was afraid you weren't going to make it. I didn't see you earlier today. These are the kind of people you never hear about or see about, but there's so many great people out there in the world. I just wish the news some nights would would show some of the people doing great things out there. I'm proud to know somebody who was one of only 4 honorary Blue Angels. I was proud to say I've been made an honorary Thunderbird, but they do 2 each year, 2 new, so there's a little over 100 of us. But Dave, thanks for coming. He's heard my talk. Thanks for modeling my shirt the way I told you. Okay, I want to hear some questions from the PlaneTag group, the MotoArt people. You're going to have to talk really loud because I got like a heavy-duty diesel fan right behind me. Oh, the D21 drone, we never used it, never saw it, never had anything to do with it. It was supposed to just separate and, be a drone. It hit the rudder, killed the pilot, they lost the jet. That what Kelly Johnson said, that's it. We're not doing it. We never had to deal with it at all in the 80s. Nothing. Yes, sir, in the front row. No, you were not assigned to one specific airplane. You'd never get to fly it. It needs so much maintenance and prep. We flew a dozen, 12, 13 tail numbers. So when I go to museums, I know, that one, and each one flew different. Each one was like a Swiss watch. They were hand built and they all had their little quirks. Some you had to refuel crooked all the time. Some would tuck a little more when you went supersonic. Some just got better gas mileage. They were all different. But no, you just flew whatever plane maintenance could deliver that day. Yes, ma'am, there in the pretty peach dress there with that lovely smile, gorgeous hair, radiant look there. Have I seen the Top Gun movie? Well, no, I have not seen the movie. I have better things to do like laundry or something. No, I'll probably see it eventually. The flying is all great, but you gotta roll your eyes. They would have all been fired on day 2. I got one thing to say. I saw the first one. Folks, it is a serious business. People die. They study hard. There's sweat. You get humbled every day. It hurts your body. It is not a glamorous fun time. And that's the only issue I have with those kind of movies. 10-year-old little girls are all thinking, I can go to Top Gun and be you have no concept of what that does to your body or what it takes to do that or what it's like. So I hate that they're giving off the image of it's a beach volleyball party and only study occasionally. I'm 60 years old, but they called me back to lead the game. Oh yeah, right. I'm waiting for my call any day. I'm just making fun. It's entertainment, and it's great to see your jets, taxpayer jets flying. It's great. I'm all for it. I want people to know you work hard, you fly twice a day, you get up at 5 a.m., it hurts your body, and people crash and die. I mean, it's serious business.
Talk about the drugs they give you to be able to fly that.
The drugs they give you?
Well, our son said in the fighter crash.
Oh no, the only time they give you those little drug things is if you have to do a deployment in fighter jets, like from North Carolina to Germany, to keep you awake for 20 hours. We never took anything like that, no. And you wouldn't want to, no. Are you mother and daughter? Yeah, you guys look like it. She was kind of flirting with me during the show a little bit. Yeah, I saw her.
Can you tell us what the fuel burn was in full burner?
The fuel burn, well, in full burner on the ground, it's just astronomical. You're burning like 50,000 pounds an hour, but the faster you go, the less fuel you're burning because of all the free ram air that comes across that inlet. And that's why Ben Rich was such a genius to develop a system like that.
So, it starts in one. I think I just figured it out. For maintenance,
No, SR is strategic reconnaissance. That's close.
well, I do a lot of ISR.
That was good. Strategic reconnaissance, global, anywhere, anytime.
What's the space? What is replacing it.
Nothing has replaced it. The jet has not been replaced. And they figure the drones, satellites, and other things are doing an adequate job. But we just don't have the budget to put all the tankers up. You know, when I do the Cuba run every week, yeah, tankers in Idaho, tankers in Texas, tankers in Florida, tankers at Guantanamo Bay. That's a lot of airplanes for one mission. And then on the way back, you'd hit Little Rock, Arkansas, Guardian, they'd throw their tankers up. And can't keep doing that. There came a time when the budget crunch just wouldn't support it. Okay, I would like to say I'm going to be at my table for the rest of the day. For those of you that weren't smart enough to come and buy a book earlier, I would like to get one. What?
I got to say a few words. This man is amazing to me. Now, is that a few words? I've known him for over 20 years. I was in that briefing room back with the Blue Angels when he walked in to see John Kirby, and John Kirby wondered exactly what he said. We all did, like, who is this guy? And he came in and wowed us over with the most amazing stuff and presented the most beautiful book I can talk about. I'm going to finish this with a personal story. 2 years ago, I was diagnosed with jaw cancer. My life turned upside down. I'm as fast and furious as this man here. He knows it. I've been through everything, I've done everything, and I've enjoyed life. And I was on the brink, really on the brink of where I was going to go with my life. I texted Brian, kind of told him what I was going through. He personally reinforced my vigoration to get back to life and to make this thing happen. So I know what he says is true, and I can't thank this man enough. He's put up with me for so many years, and we have been a lot of places together, and I've enjoyed every minute. And I hope you guys have enjoyed him too, because he is a real treasure. Thank you.
At what point did I lose control of my talk? Thanks, Griff. We've been friends, and that John Kirby that he mentioned is the guy you see on TV today as the Defense Department spokesperson. He was a young lieutenant back then, and he made admiral. Now he's the guy on the news, always trying to give us a reason why we're doing something. Anyway, these were good questions. I have to say I've enjoyed this group immensely today, because I didn't have any idea quite. I knew what it was kind of, but I didn't understand. And Dave was telling me on the phone. I really appreciate being one of the guest speakers, because I understand you guys always get pretty good guest speakers. So I'll be sitting at my table if you have any questions, or you want to buy a few books left. We are supporting Wounded Warrior today. The portion of all the proceeds, we always do that. So I want to thank you, and thanks for keeping aviation alive and well with all the things, and a special thanks to MotoArt for all they do. So thanks.